Today we're going to be talking about 2.3G, the class activity, finding slope from a context. So you guys need to open up your books to 2.3G. Number 1 says gourmet jelly beans cost $9 for 2 pounds. So we have a table here, and if you look, yours will be blank. This one has them filled in. So if we look up here, I have $9 for 2 pounds. So you need to put 2 pounds right here. There's no other cost available here, so this is going to be proportional, or the y-intercept is 0. If you notice on the graph here, it crosses down here at 0. So what that means is that we can divide that and get $4.50. And so for every pound, we're going to be doing $4.50. So we added another pound to 3, so we're going to add $4.50 to be $13.50. We added another pound, so we're going to add another $4.50 to be $18. Now they skip $2, so we're going to skip 2 pounds, we're going to skip $9. Then we skipped another 2 pounds, we're going to skip another $9, up to 36 here. And it keeps doing that again, 2 pounds, so another $9 is 45. Now they skip 5 pounds here. So 5 pounds, that's going to be, let's see, if it's 5 times $4.50 would be $22.50. So we added $22.50 here, and that gave us $67.50. Then they did it again, and so we added another $22.50. So have out that table, fill it in there. We also, they cut this in half, so down to 1, and that would be $4.50. And then we cut it in half again, that would be 0.5 pounds, $2.25. Okay, we need to graph these. So notice they counted one by ones here. You had 20. Then up here we counted by tens up to 100. And then if you put on your points, it's going to look like this. So go ahead and take a minute to graph that. Okay, while you are finishing up your graph, we're going to move on to part C here. It says, what is the slope of the line? Well, that would be $9 over 2 pounds, so 9 over 2. So write the slope of the line as a rate of change. That's going to be 9 over 2, which when you divide it is 4.5 or $4.50 over 1. So for every pound of jelly beans, it's going to cost you $4.50. Part E asks us to write an equation. So you can do y equals 9 over 2x, or if you wanted to use the unit rate, $4.50 x. And part F says, why is the data graphed only in the first quadrant? It's because you can't have a negative amount of jelly beans or a negative cost. I mean, they're not going to pay you to eat jelly beans, so it's just going to be positive numbers here. Okay, we're going to skip down to number 2. Number 2 is very similar. A little too far. Let's try that again. Okay. Kaylin takes the same amount of time to solve each of the equations on her math homework. She can solve 10 equations in 8 minutes. There's no other extra things here, so this is also going to be proportional, which means it's 0, 0. 0 minutes, 0 equations solved, and you can see that on the graph down here. Now, over here, we have 8 minutes, so that's going to be the 10. Because this is proportional, we cut it in half. We did it down to 4, so we cut the 10 in half to get to 5. We cut it in half again to 2, so we cut the 5 in half to get $2.5 equations solved. At the same time, we added 4 here, and notice we had 4 over 5, so every 4 minutes we did 5, so we added 4 minutes, so we're going to add 5 equations. And then we added, there's a blank here, so we're going to add another 4, we're going to add another 5, so it's going to be 16 and 20. And then they added 4 more, so we're going to add 5 more, be 25. And then finally 5 more to get to 30, so 4 more to get to 24. So I'm going to once again give you just a minute to graph this. Let's go ahead and put those points on the line. Notice they went by ones on both of them. There are 25 boxes going right, and there's 30 boxes going up. So on part C, it says what is the slope of the line? And that was going to be 10 over 8, 10 equations over 8 minutes, which simplifies to be 5 over 4, or 5 equations every 4 minutes. Write the slope of the line as a rate of change, so we simplify that to be 1.25. So Kaylin can solve 1.25 equations in 1 minute. You could also say 5 equations in 4 minutes. Part E, write an equation to find the number of equations solved for any number of minutes. So we can say y equals 4.5x or y equals 5 over 4. Oh, that's not a 4.5. That's wrong. Sorry, that's supposed to say 1.25. That's a typo there. So y equals 1.25x or y equals 5 over 4x. Alright, last but not least, we're going to go down to the last one here. We're looking at our babysitters here. So Mr. Irving and Mrs. Hendrickson pay babysitters differently. Examine the table and describe the difference. So here, for 0 hours, Mr. Irving doesn't pay him anything, but Mrs. Hendrickson pays $4. That's going to be like an initial charge or just $4 for coming over to babysit. Then, when they've stayed for 1 hour, Mr. Irving's now paid them $9. She's paid them a total of $12. But if you notice, she's only paid them $8 more. Where he paid them $9 for the first hour, she's only paying $8. So then after 3, he paid 9 more 2 times, or 18 more. She paid 8 more twice, or 16 more. Then we go up to 5. He's paid another 18 to 45, and now she's 44. So the difference here is Mr. Irving pays 9 for every hour of babysitting. Mrs. Hendrickson pays 8 every hour for babysitting, except that he pays $4 just for coming over. Are they proportional relationships? The answer is no. Mr. Irving is, because he's at 0, 0, but Mrs. Hendrickson is 0, 4. And so she is not proportional. It says write the slope as a rate of change to interpret its meaning. So Mr. Irving was $9 every hour. Mrs. Hendrickson was $8 every hour. Explain the different y-intercepts. So Mr. Irving was at 0. Hers was at 4. Just means she pays $4 up front and then the $8 per hour. It says here, is one job better than the other? Well, if you look at the table here, if you're doing 0 or 1 hours or even up to 3 hours, you'd rather go with Mrs. Hendrickson. Unless she has terrible kids. She's going to pay you more for that same amount of time. Mr. Irving, he's going to pay you less until you get up above 4. So like starting with hour 5 here, now he's going to start paying you more. So it depends on how long of a babysitting job you're doing. Let's move this up and we'll do these bottom questions here. So it wanted us to graph and label the 2 pay rates. So up from that table up above, we needed to graph them. So the red line, this is Mr. Irving, so he was at 0, 0. He was at 1, 9, 2, 18, 3, 27, 4, 36, 5, 45. Mrs. Hendrickson, she was at $4 here, so 0, 4, 1, 12, 2, 20, 3, 28, 4, 36, and 5, 44. And notice, where the green line is above, that's Mrs. Hendrickson, that's when you want to go with her. When the red is above, which is just right here, that's where you want to go with Mr. Irving. They're the same right here at 4. So it doesn't matter if you did a 4-hour babysitting job. Down here, D says, what's the slope of each line? That's just 9 and 8. And then we have to answer part H here. It says write an equation for each situation. So we just take our slope and put it in place here. So y equals 9x. We take our slope here, 8. Y equals 8x. But this was not proportional. She started at 4, so we're going to put plus 4. Alright, that is your class activity. You guys need to turn open to page 108, I believe, somewhere close to there, and do your 2.3G homework. You're going to be doing the same kinds of things, just answering very similar questions.